Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I would like to thank Jxxiii for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is Liz Jakoi. Did I pronounce that properly?
Yes, you did. Great job.
Awesome. Liz is a mindset facilitator that helps successful professionals experiencing disconnection from themselves unleash their true essence of who they are and live more powerfully, uniting their mind, body, and soul. Her mission is to help you live the life you love by turning procrastination into productivity, obstacles into opportunities, tap into your true potential for gaining clarity, confidence, and connection. Liz has spoken on international stages and has received numerous awards. Liz, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deepak. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having you on. So I want to start. So, mindset facilitator. Maybe it's different, but most kids, myself included, my family, all the kids I grew with, no one grew up saying, I want to be a mindset facilitator when I grow up. So how did you fall into this line of work?
Interesting that you asked me that question. No, it's true. It's kind of something that I guess evolved over time. As a kid, I had noticed I had this propensity to always help people or kind of know what their problems were and then to guide them from a very early age. And like most of us, we get indoctrinated into the way things were. And this was back in I'm going to date myself here, but 60s, 70s, right? It's a very different life back then. So we didn't look at, and I guess growing up in an environment in my home where it was constant stress, anxiety, overwhelm, very volatile. You didn't kind of know one day to the next what the mood was going to be, and you kind of had to understand and shift. That kind of drove me into really wanting to understand human behavior and what the inner workings of the mind. So it's really been decades of, reading books, and went to university to study psychology. And
I was just going to ask if that's what you did as an undergrad. Okay, great.
Yeah. And then I guess that's what I originally actually wanted to be, a phys ed teacher, guidance counselor, because I was really good at phys ed or really good at athletics, received a lot of awards. But when I got to university, I realized that because I wanted to be a guidance counselor, because I always felt that kids needed guidance, and, not to badmouth guidance teachers, but in those days, they weren't very good guidance counselors. Maybe they're better now. They didn't really give you guidance.
If we have time, I'll share a story later about my guidance counselor in high school. I love the guy because he's also one of the football coaches. But as far as the guidance and career trajectory, like completely off. But anyway, please continue.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So I guess, when you kind of connect the dots looking back on your life, like how things started and why you got to where so that was kind of like, I saw that gap was what I thought they should be doing and what they weren't doing, and how I could fill that gap. And then, of course, you start working, went into human resources with an idealistic version of, you develop your human resources to develop into their true potential, help the employees grow and develop. And that's how your profits are going to grow and develop. Like I said, idealist, always idealist. And I guess that's kind of spanned the decades of my life until I finally realized that the gap between doing a lot of skills training, I was, training towards the end of my career, doing leadership skills, customer service skills, sales skills, and then being employment counselor, career counselor, that kind of thing. So kind of flipping from HR to the other side. And one of the things I realized with all this training that I'm giving people, and when I'm coaching them, that the gap is really from where they are to where they want to be. It's limiting beliefs. So I started studying more the neuroscience, transformational psychology, so a little bit of spirituality. And that's how I got into the mindset, that there's no point. And that's why I thought there's no point in me offering skills training anymore, because what people really need is the unconscious, the limiting beliefs training, right? Understanding where all these unconscious beliefs come from. Why am I programmed to be a people pleaser or a perfectionist, or, and they're good points. Like, don't get me wrong, they're good points. But what I've realized is when we're stressed, then we tend to be more of a perfectionist, which can really put people off, or more of a people pleaser, which can become a little bit manipulative, or that kind of thing, and sort of understanding how to sort of scale back on that. So that's why I got into this work, because I really felt that people need to, that's where the gap is. You can throw any kind of skills training, abilities training, knowledge training at people, but some people will progress and do well, but others will fall behind, and it's because of the mindset piece.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement in this, and I've said this for a long time. I think any technical skill can be learned. I don't think that's really that hard, with the caveat that you got it up here, right? The mindset, the motivation, a lot of other different terminologies that people use. But I think if you kind of have that drive, that mindset, again, I'm mixing terminologies here, any technical skill can be learned, really. I think, and I think coming from a corporate world myself in the past, I think HR / kind of management sort of has this limited view on, like, oh well, you can't be in this role because of this, and you didn't go to school for this. Like, yeah, who cares? Like, that's easy. Like, give me the manual, let me shadow somebody for a week, and I can do it, right? But you got to have it up here, right?
Yeah, well, probably like in your business as well, you'll see that mindset is, well, they're saying it's 80%. I'm thinking it's more.
Well,
I think mindset is a bigger impact, than what a lot of the gurus out there are saying. There's, I guess because everybody likes to use the Pareto principle, 80-20, everything is 80-20. So I think they just kind of throw that out there. But if you listen to Bruce Lipton, he talks about 95% of our daily activities are pre-programmed. Like, we're just walking through the world unconsciously.
Biology of Belief is the book, if
right.
people want Bruce
It's
Lipton.
a great,
Liz,
great
we've had conversations before, like, mindset, I don't know what that split is exactly, but I think it's key. Like, if you don't have that, for like in what I do, and I'm not talking about me here, but when I work with my clients, that's the first thing. If you don't have that settled, how are you going to make habit changes in your nutrition and movement and everything else health related that I work on with people, right? So I 100% believe it's, I don't know what that number is. Maybe it's 95, maybe it's 80, maybe it's less. I don't know, but it's the first thing. It should be the first thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be less than 80, but it's definitely between that 80 and 95. So I don't think anybody has really measured it yet, but it's definitely there. Yeah.
True. So, in preparing for this, interview, a couple of cues came up. So I'm just going to throw it out, and you tell me what this means to you, or how that relates into, what you do or what you work on with people. But the power of imagination.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And it's really about, we don't use enough of it. And I think that's where we get clarity in our business. And you probably see that with maybe your clients as well, when you're working on them with mindset, that it's really imagining where they want to be and how they want to be. Because everything, I mean, if I said to you, picture a pink elephant, it's hard for you not to, right? Like, right away, your imagination, you have that visual, whether it's a moving picture or not moving, it doesn't matter. And we know from studies, for example, there was a big study done by Harvard with piano players. I don't know if you've heard of this one, but they got two different groups. One group was just imagining playing the piano piece, and the other group was actually physically playing the piano piece. And what they did was they, put electrodes to their head and measured what parts of the brain lit up. And they found that whether they were imagining it or actually physically doing it, the exact same part of the brain lit up. So what that and of course, later they asked them to play the piece, and they didn't find any, I think maybe 1% or 2% differential in the people that imagined playing that new piece versus the people that actually played the piece. There wasn't much difference. And we see this with athletes all the time.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah, go ahead. Please continue.
No, let's go ahead. No, bring it up if you like. Yeah.
No. Well, I was just gonna say. Well, first of all, I was gonna say, like, absolutely, you're 100% correct. I use a lot of, again, around that mindset piece of, like, what people want their future health to look like, et cetera, et cetera. I haven't used the term power of imagination. I might steal that from you, Liz, if that's all right. I like that. But to the athlete point, countless interviews, anyone, regardless of sports, the top performers, of course they're doing the work. They're shooting, free throws. They're doing the stuff in the weight room, etc. They're spending just as much amount of time visualization, what the shot looks like, winning the championship, sinking the putt, whatever the case may be. So yeah, I was just going to mention that. So yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, so no, that and that's what I always encourage my clients to do is spend 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's not a lot of time in the morning to really visualize, what living their life for the day is going to be like, what their perfect day is going to look like. Because once you visualize it, your body thinks that it's already done it, right? So instead of waking up in the morning, thinking about your to-do list and going on autopilot, about the coffee maker or going to the bath, I just tell them first thing you do is visualize your day. What
Or
does
scrolling through whatever. Right?
that causes so much more anxiety and
Yeah.
stress, right? Because then it's kind of like those, well, I didn't get as many likes or comments on my post, and right, so and so did, or just seeing things that you really don't.
Liz, let me ask you this, going a little, I think it's related. I don't think it's off topic, but I find, the first thing a few minutes ago when we started talking about power imagination, and I don't know if I necessarily classify it as imagination. I'd love to get your take, but I'm a huge believer in meditation for myself, and I try and implement it with my clients if they don't already have it. And I find I got a lot of insights, divergent pieces of information finally come together for me when I meditate. How do you feel about meditation in the realm of what we're talking about?
Absolutely the best thing that you can do. Because what it helps is because we have sometimes negative thoughts and these inner voices. So it helps to calm those inner voices. And like you said, is really tap into that higher self, because that's where your ideas are coming from, especially during meditation. And one of the things I've learned to do is if I don't take even if I get those, I don't know about you, but when I'm meditating, if I don't take that moment to write down those, how sometimes you get those ideas and it's like, oh my God. If I don't even break out of that meditation, because I think it's important to do that and jot down those ideas, those ideas are gone. And I think that comes from that relaxed state, which I teach a lot about as well, is how to get into that relaxed state. Because that's when we're in a relaxed state, that's where your creativity comes from, right? That's where you get inspired, you get motivated, and you're like, for you as well, for your ideas. I think there was a study done on 50-year-olds who meditated for a month, for 30 days. And they found that the gray matter, which is a link to Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as what's that called? Amyloid plaques, were significantly reduced the plaques, but also significantly increased the gray matter, which is really necessary for a higher functioning. So 30 days, if you can do that for 30 days, minimum of 15 minutes, definitely important. And I think that I'm glad that you brought this up, because your population especially, right? I think you're working with people who want to age gracefully,
That's correct, yes. Yeah.
Right, longevity and stuff, really important. And that's why I'm working with getting clients at that earlier age, 35, 40, so that they'll start thinking about, because they don't really think about their health until something happens or later in life. And it might be too late to reverse the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's kind of like a pet project of mine for later in life or later in my business, is really give back to that kind of community, because I think it's really important. And I think you can reverse. I just haven't done enough studies and research on it. But
there's some really interesting things. We won't go down this path. We could have another conversation just on that. But yeah, there's some really interesting things for sure. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but meditation is definitely a great way to imagine, because you can meditate on, what does my life look like? What, if I had to live the life that I love, what would that look like? And what would I need to do today to start working towards that? So definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Love that. So then the other one of the other topics I want to bring was the power of choice. So what does that mean to you?
Well, it kind of started with when I was doing training in corporate world, and it's still around now, and you probably know this as well, SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. And every time, it was funny, this didn't dawn on me till about a couple of years ago. But every time I was facilitating this, because you kind of told that this is the way things had to be, it always caused me angst. And I wasn't really sure what that angst is, but it's kind of tapping into your intuition, your higher power eventually, and figuring out what is causing that angst. And I realized that what it was when we're told, nothing wrong with measuring goals, nothing wrong with having goals, because you got to know where you are in the process so you can measure it and improve. But I think when we talk about it being attainable and realistic, I think that kind of boxes us in and puts a cap on what we really can accomplish and our true potential. So that's why I call it a choice. If we choose the end result, or we choose a goal to be a certain way, then that kind of frees us up from these constraints of, well, is it attainable and realistic? Well, if your higher self feels that it is attainable, that it isn't, because they always say you have humongous goals, but the problem with that is there's a lot of limiting beliefs in there. So that's why I said, make it a choice. If we choose to be a certain way, it's a lot easier to move towards that, because we made that decision to make that choice, as opposed to making sure that it's attainable and realistic. So that's where that came from. So I always teach my clients true choices. I choose the end result of, and what is it that they're choosing? And that way it's more feels, because they have to feel into it too. You don't get that with SMART goals. I think it's really important to not only have a goal, but to really feel, what is that going to feel like when I achieve this? Is that going to give me the contentment, the peace, the freedom that I want in life, the happiness, the joy, all those things that are really going to propel us forward, as opposed to the stress, anxiety, overwhelm, which I think SMART goals can sometimes cause. So that's my premise.
Interesting. Two points I want to bring up. So first, you mentioned sort of like the anxiety around SMART goals. So, I've taken, obviously I have a number of certifications, coaching certifications. And of course, that's part of the curriculum of like, and when you're working with a client and have SMART goals, and like, it's pretty hard to always, of course, it depends on the client and what they're trying to achieve, but it's like to actually, like get all 5 of those, right? And it's just like, and it just kind of never really made sense. And I just kind of like, whatever. And of course, at the end of the day, you coach how you coach, and you coach to people, not to some paradigm or whatever. So that's kind of the one point. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because kind of anxiety as well, at least in the past. But here's my thought, and I'd love to get your take on it, is like SMART goals, as most people think of them or as defined, I think are really from like the corporate world, where it's like, okay, so you can advance to that next peg, or to get your quarterly bonus, or your whatever, your half year review or your yearly review. It's not really for, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, obviously, right? But like for the entrepreneur spirit, or the person who, more artistic or more bigger thinker. I don't know if I'm using the right terms here, but I think you get what I'm saying here, right? I think that the SMART goals paradigm is really for that corporate advance one step at a time, as opposed to like, hey, I want to change the world and I'm going to do this. What's your take on that?
I see where you're coming from, but I think even if the corporate world, it's fine. I mean, I'm sure they have to have SMART goals, or you've probably heard of SMARTER goals, right? Where the ER at the end of SMARTER is expected results. We used to work with that as well. And I kind of like the end result, or the expected result, or not expected, but more end result. So you're working towards it. I think it still stifles creativity, because I think when people want to if they really want to maximize their employees and their potential, I'm sure that when employees are sitting at their desks, that ideas might be popping into their heads about things flowing more easily, or being more effective, or being more efficient, if this would happen. So if corporations could have somehow built into their system where they could have these brainstorming sessions, allow employees to be able to dream and figure out things, I think corporate world would be a lot happier, a lot more joyous place to work in, to be honest with you. I think if they recognize that it would be hard to brainstorm if it's not realistic and not attainable, because the idea of brainstorming is really thinking outside the box, really like blowing the lid off for a better expression of. And I don't think you're going to get that with SMART goals. And I think that's what's harming corporate world right now. And I think to me, the pandemic really got employers to think about working outside the box, right? They had to adapt to
literally working outside their cubicle box.
right. And to me, when it happened, I'm like, thank God, because being an HR professional, I always saw how why can't employees work from home? I already had those ideas. If the kid is sick, instead of taking a sick day and not being productive, why can't we set up mechanisms so while the kid is sick, they can still get a few hours of work done at home, maybe even just emails or something? Because I know myself, it was, and this is kind of like thinking outside the box too. If it's, that you've got to, yeah, anyways, I'm going off on a tangent again. So I hope that kind of expresses.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement there that it's the SMART goal rigid paradigm isn't serving the corporate role and probably doesn't serve other populations, i.e. the entrepreneur or the dreamer, the artist, the whatever type of thing. Yeah, I think we're in agreement there.
I think maybe if they want to set up certain systems, processes, and procedures, maybe they'll need SMART goals. But I think if they want to take the direction of the company and they want to utilize employees' potential within the company, they've got to go outside of the SMART goals.
I agree. So then what does moving on, what does the power of movement, what is that all about?
Well, I think you might like this because it's probably
well, just the word movement, I'm all over that, but yeah, in your context here.
Yeah, what that means is it's just getting up and using using movement, whether it's yoga, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's weight training, any kind of exercise, and just even standing up and walking up and down the stairs, doing that throughout the day at least 5-6 times really energizes you. It doesn't have to be for 20 minutes. It can be for 5 minutes, just to take that break throughout the day. Because it will clear your head. If you're feeling stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, Tony Robbins talks about, taking massive action and movement. He really links the physiology to a lot of the things that he teaches. And there's a lot of but movement itself really helps to shift your energy where you're feeling depleted because of the stress, to shift your energy into more, to feeling better about what you're doing and clearing, the cobwebs, or if you're struggling focusing and that sort of thing, then take 2 minutes, go for a walk or do something that's going to energize you, because we know movement really does energize us. And if you're doing it for 15-20 minutes, I think you probably know this too, is Robin Sharma, as well as there was a book called Spark. I can't remember the author, but he also talks about one of the things exercise and movement does, especially if you do about minimum 20 minutes first thing in the morning, is it's kind of like this miracle grow for our brain. It's called BDNR, brain derived
BDNF, yeah, brain derived neurotrophic factor.
Yeah, so I thought you'd like this.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right, it helps to kind of like clear the mind and create that miracle grow for our brain. It actually increases the brain cells, especially as we're getting older. If our brain cells are dying off because we're not, using a growth mindset, or we're not learning a new language or a puzzle, all those things that kind of stimulate brain growth, definitely exercise is really key factor in that. So that's why I get my clients, to think about where in the day can they spend at least 5 minutes, at least minimum 3 times a day. Even doing push-ups against the wall, or walking up and down the stairs, or, going outside for a walk in the grass, or whatever it is. Really important to help you re-energize, and you'll notice how much more productive you are in the day. So
absolutely. I'm gonna throw one thing. If we have any younger listeners, or maybe for your kids who are going to high school or college, doing a bit of exercise and then studying actually helps you retain the material that the person's learning. I mean, that's for everyone, but I mean, not all of us older are studying, and Hopefully you are. Hopefully you're learning a new skill. And the other thing I just wanted to anecdotally is I used to keep a, not a very even heavy, but a kettlebell in my office. So every time I left the office to go to the bathroom or whatever reason, I'd have to do like 10 kettlebell swings. Once we got our dog last year, though, he just like want to like, I literally, I would almost hit him, right? He's so excited. So I had to stop that. But because I have to take him out to go to the bathroom every hour and a half or whenever I get a chance for a break, that's replaced that. So yeah, I'm getting outside, and I have that benefit of getting outside in nature and get some sunshine, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, great strategy there. Absolutely. So it's kind of a nice segue. Again, even though this podcast is not health specific, a variety of guests, I do like to bring a couple questions on health. So this last, talking about movement. So Liz, what does your morning routine or health routine look like in a kind of like an average day?
Average day? Well, I can't live without it, that's for sure. The first thing I do when I wake up is meditate. Usually it's a different meditation most of the time. Sometimes it's the same one. I love Joe Dispenza, so sometimes I use his meditations. So I meditate, then I take my dog for a walk. And when I come back, I like to have my coffee, and that's when I sit and read something for a few minutes, 20 minutes or so, have my coffee. Then I do my workout. Sometimes I mix it up a little bit. I may just meditate and then work out. Depends what time of the day I wake up, but usually I'm up around 5:30. And then I work out, shower, and then I start my day. So I'll get in not only some mindset work. I'll visualize my day. If any ideas or thoughts come, that's where I'm writing it down. So I'll get not only the body, and very important for the body movement to get it in, but I'll get my mind going as well. And then of course that soul work where I'm thinking about, connect. That's where you connect to higher self through meditation, is thinking about what do I want to accomplish? Who do I want to be? How am I going to be today? How am I going to show up? So.
Awesome. I love that. So let me ask you this question. So if you had to go back, so let's put a health angle on this question.
Sure.
If you had to go back and give your 20-year-old or some younger version of yourself advice regarding health, what advice would you give yourself?
Stick to your workout routine, because don't give it up no matter what. Especially if you're a people pleaser. We tend to make sure other people are happy and give up on our workout routine. That's one of the things, is self-care. Self-care is not selfish. Don't let anyone tell you that self-care is selfish, that whether what you're eating to take care of yourself and how you're moving your body and how you're filling your mind, very crucial, very important. I used to think it was selfish, that I had to look after everybody else first. But by the time I looked after everybody else first, I didn't have time or energy later in the day. So that's why I started my early morning routine, so I could look after myself first. So that's what I would tell people is, whether, in your 20s, you get up 20 minutes earlier, do 10-minute workout, start slow, start small, but do not give up your workout, because I think that's what's really important. And you start thinking about eating right as well. Really important. Love it.
So Liz, you have a gift for the listeners. It's an ebook, 5 Steps to Living an Energized Life. And the URL is kind of long, so I'm not going to say it here. I'll just put it in the show notes and link to it everywhere with the podcast will be found. But can you just give us maybe a really high level overview of what's in the ebook?
Yeah, I actually have I noticed that today when we were getting ready, is I sent you the wrong link. So if it's okay, I'll email you the.
Oh yeah, please. Yeah. We'll put the proper link in for everyone.
Yeah. No worries. Sorry, what was the question?
Maybe just like high level. What's the ebook about? 5 Steps to Living an Energized Life.
Absolutely. It's all about understanding what transformation is, the psychology of transformation, looking at our beliefs, our habits, and taking action. Understanding what are some of those things that are holding us back, lack of urgency, sometimes we don't respond, getting an understanding of not waiting until something happens in your life, like a broken bone or, something ill, before you start taking a look at so getting people to understand the importance of that. And then just the 5 steps of, becoming aware. What are some of the things, how to become aware of those limiting beliefs, awakening to the fact that there are some things, like you probably know deep down inside that there's something that's not right, and what it is, so that, awareness, self-love, crucial. As kind of mentioned that earlier when you asked me about my routine and the 20-year self-love. Really love yourself first, because it's putting that oxygen mask on. So I talk about that. Gratitude, kind of talked about that a little bit, but gratitude is really a powerhouse of energy. So I talk about that as well. And then alignment, aligning our mind, body, soul. If you're doing all the steps, that's how you're going to transform. So that's what it's about.
Awesome. So everyone, yes, go download, click the link and download the ebook. So Liz, any last words of wisdom or golden nugget you'd like to leave for the audience before we wrap up today?
Sure. I would say, don't delay. If something tells you that, I really should do this for your health, like in your case, for your mindset, for your life, don't delay. Do it today, right? Because what's holding you back can cost you in the end.
Yeah. Don't die with any regrets, people. Don't die with any regrets that you didn't do something.
Exactly. Isn't there a saying about something? Who said that? Something about, there's so many people go to their grave or something.
Yeah, I think that's the number one when I forget, the names escape me at the moment, but somebody did a study who palliative care physician did a little, I don't know if it's formal or informal study, but the number one regret of people was not, I didn't meet my goals or something like that. It was more like it was always around, I didn't do something. I didn't go to the Grand Canyon. I didn't travel more. I didn't start my own, whatever. It's always so that regret of the thing they didn't do is kind of like the number one thing that came up. I know I'm butchering that a little bit, and somebody in the internet's going to scream at me, you have that all wrong, but that's my recollections. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. That just kind of popped in my head as we were talking here. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Liz, thank you again. I'm very appreciative of you being a guest on the show today. I'm going to throw it back to J23 to guide us out. And again, thanks for listening to Deepak Saini Show. Exceptional results for the exceptional you. Check out Liz's ebook. Check out Liz's work, and we'll have all the links in the description. Till next time, take care.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company